Baruch atah Asherah, Anamat Malacha Ha'olam, Asher Kedishanu B'mitzvotav, V'tzivanu L'yitatif L'tzitzit. Good morning, Claire. How are you doing today? Good morning, all. Welcome to this tiny little corner of the internet, where every day we say the same words. Repeat, 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 so that perhaps one day we might understand. Yes, we're going to say some words in Hebrew, Frankie. And we'll say some words in Sanskrit. We'll read from the Enuma Elish, which is the Babylonian creation myth. And we'll have some breakfast. Fairly typical. Fairly standard fare. Sometimes repetition is valuable for its own sake. Here's the Enuma Elish. We will read this in a bit. And, apologies. Our tea comes from this book. Have all our books ready. And we can begin. So, we're going to begin with some very old words from the book of Deuteronomy. Shema. Oh, look at this rainbow. Ah, hello. Rainbow cheeks. Shema Yisrael Asher Eloheinu Yahweh Echad. ואהבת את ענת אלוהיך ובכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך ובחיו הדברים האלה אשר נוחים מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאוהות על ידיך וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך. וחיה, כי הביאך אלוהיך אל הארץ אשר נשבע לאבותיך לאברהם ליצחק וליעקב לתת לך ערים גדולות וטובות אשר לא בנית ובתים מלאים כל טובה אשר לא מילאת וברות עצובים אשר לא עשת וכרמים וזיתים אשר לא נתת והלכת ושבת הישמר לך פן תשכח את יהוה אשר הוציאך מארץ מצרים מבית עבדים. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. Listen, Israel, Yahweh Eloheinu, Asherah Echad. All are one. All these gods are one. Good morning, Savannah. How are you doing today? Good morning, Phoebe. What was I saying? Well, translation goes, you shall love Yahweh Eloheinu with all your heart and all your soul and all your might. And these words, which I am repeating to you today, repeat them to your children. Repeat them on TikTok, I suppose. Recite them when you wake up in the morning and when you go to bed at night. Recite them when you are out on the road and when you are at home. You shall bind them as a symbol on your hand, like a snake consuming its tail, and let them serve as a sign on your forehead, and inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. The prayer says, copy me, and so I copy it in hopes that one day the act of repetition itself will unfold for me. And, I can grasp what lies underneath, which is already always there. Good morning, Charlie. So, today we will continue to read the Enuma Elish, this Babylonian creation myth. You commented on my little story. I'm glad you're here. Right? Hey, we're in communication. Did you realize that? You sent me a message, I sent you a message back. It's like we were talking. Nonsense. Good morning, Tess. Good morning, Wendy. So. Oh, hello?
Me?
You.
I'm going to stretch.
You're going to stretch.
I'm going to stretch. You're going to keep praying.
I'm going to keep praying.
Look at that cash in this mess.
These are not my students, so it is acceptable.
I'm just stretching.
Yeah.
Stretching jeans.
Good morning, Tabby. How are you? So, we're at the start of Tablet 4 of the Enuma Elish. So where we left off, Tiamat and Apsu created the world by intermingling their waters.
Whoa, that's sexy.
Yeah, it was pretty good. But then the gods that they created were rebellious. And they were making a racket. They were making too much noise. And Tiamat and Apsu were like, you know what we should do? We should just kill them. And Tiamat was like, no, I think that would be a bad idea. There are children. And Apsu's like, no, we should totally do it. They're not letting me sleep. And then the gods that are making the racket, they hear wind of the conversation of their parents, and they say, this is no good, we need to kill Apsu. And so then Ea kills Apsu and takes his body and turns it into his palace. These gods, they're very, all these old stories, the gods are concerned with building a palace for themselves. Infrastructure, very important in the ancient world. And so they kill Apsu, and then Tiamat becomes enraged, and she makes all of these demons. She creates dragons with laser beams, and like scorpion kings. And
I'm skeptical that they have laser beams. Lasers weren't invented until like the 1970s.
Okay, the quote. Let me see. And she caused these raging dragons to emit deadly beams and to wear mantles of brilliance, so they were like gods. Maybe they weren't laser beams, but they were deadly beams. Anyway, she creates this army, and the army is very ferocious, and the gods, they don't know what to do. They have no one to fight against this army, and so they seek a hero, and they elect the hero Marduk the Conqueror, and they have a big banquet, and they set a destiny for him. They make this prediction that he's gonna kill Tiamat and become the king of all kings. And now we're in the next chapter, and we're gonna see what happens. There's gonna be a war. Tiamat's gonna get ripped in half. It's gonna be dreadful. Anyway, but we're back to infrastructure. Then for his use, they constructed for him a royal palace, because you can't be a king if you don't have a royal palace. It's reciprocal definitions. Then for his use they constructed for him a royal palace, and he occupied it as ruler of his forebears, who declared, "You are the most revered among all the high gods. Your life is magnificent. Your speech has the force of Anu. Marduk, you are the most revered of any of the high gods. Your life is magnificent. Your speech has the force of Anu. From henceforth your commands will never be distorted. You hold the power to raise both up and compel down. Let your proclamations be law, and let your words be true, and let not a single god supersede the boundaries you set. Let there be an account created in support of your estate, big bank account, like those required for the gods' temples where they stand." Right, so these things, they're actually about setting up state institutions. So Marduk has the temple, and the priests in the temple, they can say taxes upon the people, and so the people will pay the taxes, and Marduk can be their god king. Wake up, I am reading the Enuma Elish. It is a Babylonian creation story, and right now we're reading about the ascension of Marduk. Thank you for all the gifts, Savannah. I appreciate them very much. I'm glad you're here, Judah. Welcome back. So, where were we? Taxes. Let there be an account created in support of your estate, like those required of the temple gods where they stand. You, Marduk, are our defender. You, Lord, are our defender. We must bestow upon your rule the entire cosmic order. When seated in the council, your words are second to none. Let it be that your weapons never stray from their targets, but rather let it be that your weapons crush your enemies. Lord, be merciful towards the one who puts his faith in you, but also diminish the life of any god who is a worker of evil. As in, the mother goddess who created everything, who you were keeping up at night, and now she's angry. Then they placed amongst themselves a single constellation, and raised their voices to be heard to Marduk their son. Lord, may your proclamations be miraculous to the gods. Speak orders for both destruction and for renewal. Amen. So proclaim to it that the constellation may then disappear. Proclaim it yet again that the constellation be seen again. Death and rebirth, so say the gods. Upon speaking at his utterance, the constellation disappeared. Speaking again at his utterance, the constellation reappeared. Marduk is very powerful, it seems. When his forebears, the gods, observed the power of his words, then they cried out in jubilation, declaring, "Marduk is king!" They bestowed upon him the scepter, the throne, and the staff of rule, and into his hand an unbeatable weapon to destroy his enemy. They then cheered, "March forth and sever the life of Tiamat. May the winds carry her blood here to declare good tidings." Then his forebears, the gods, pronounced the fate of the Lord, encouraging him to embody ideals of measure and restraint. And there we are. That's what kingship looked like 4,000 years ago. And we will continue reading what Marduk does next tomorrow. He's going to make some more weapons. And
You said Tiamat would be cut in half and it didn't happen.
I'm sorry, you'll just have to come back tomorrow. I mean, that's like the climax of the whole story, and there's 7 tablets, and we're only on tablet 4, so there has to be, like, a lot more proclamations of divinity before then. Good morning, JP.
So where do we get all this egalitarian nonsense from?
I don't know. Yeah.
There's all this mythology backing up authoritarian governments.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I haven't actually read any mythology that's like, we're all created equal, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, you have, it's called the U.S. Constitution.
Yeah, and it's really mythology.
Yeah.
Hey, little cat. Hey, little cat. Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Like, I think equality values are pretty late in human development for a very long time.
There's also an argument that they're extremely early in human development.
Right, yes.
Like, that is the mythology that egalitarianists use.
Right, that we were the hunter-gatherers with no governments and...
Right, that this is the original state of grace that we fell from.
Yeah.
We ate the tree of good and evil, of knowledge, and entered...
And all of a sudden there was hierarchy, yeah.
And also man gods.
Yeah. The stupid man gods. I make you laugh and calm your soul. That's sweet. The U.S. Constitution isn't mythology. Well, it certainly says false things.
Well, there's a lot of mythology in the United States about the Constitution.
Right.
The founding fathers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is a mythology.
Yes.
Like, sure, there are factual underpinnings to it.
Mm-hmm.
Just the same way that, like, King Solomon did, in fact, build a temple. And there probably was this scrawny kid named David who did hit a really big guy in the head with a rock once.
Yeah, probably. Wake up, make waves. There's oppression in the world. Basically, that's basically all I have to say about that, right? Like, we were reading stories about authoritarianism, and hey, they're still here, right? Like, when people organize themselves, they organize themselves to control one another, and that sucks. I don't know what to do about it. I continue to live here. Yeah.
Kind of hard after I ate 2 pieces of 5-2 fried eggs and a piece of fried toast with a lot of butter.
To stretch.
Yeah.
J plus, I am not qualified to officiate weddings. That's quite a compliment to ask me. Maybe one day. I doubt it though.
You don't actually need a qualification to officiate a wedding.
Well,
my brother had professors officiate his wedding.
Yeah, well, there is a qualification. It's a pretty low bar. You can like fill out a form on the internet to do it.
Oh. How much will you pay?
He said he was going to fly me out to somewhere. I don't know where.
And pay you.
And pay me. Yeah, that would be required.
Lend me a table saw.
Oh, I am sorry for misgendering you. You're in Utah. Message me on Discord. We can talk further. Alright. Well, I think it's time for Arati. Hey, cat. It's time for Arati. So the word Arati means flame in Sanskrit. And, or light. Here we have the light flame. And, Yarati is full of lots of names of different gods, like Marduk and Apsu. Except, actually, those gods aren't mentioned in it at all. Different set of gods, different language. Bye. Thanks for chatting with me.
Too disruptive.
No, so TikTok likes it when I talk about things in English, like, much, much more than when I read prayers in foreign languages that, like, people just scroll past. Like, if I were actually optimizing for numbers, I would just come on here and chat, or, like, come up with something better to do. But I like saying those prayers. So I say them and people leave, and I'm like, what am I doing playing this algorithm game? But if you talk to me, then the numbers go up. And I like that. Yeah, that too. Maybe tomorrow. So, Arati contains the names of many gods. This prayer comes from the Bhagavad Gita, which is a holy text written in India about 2,000 years ago. Right, so 2,000 years after the Enuma Elish was written, we have another prayer filled with names of many, many gods, all of whom have stories behind them. I won't be able to go into any of their stories, but you can do the research if you wish. But for me, the purpose of saying all of these names of all of these gods is to sort of recognize the fiction of them all, right? Like, they're all just stories, and they're all representing something real underneath. And that's what I try to remind myself of, that's what I try to get at, is what is the real thing underneath all of the fictions, underneath all of the myths, right? Underneath all of the stories that, like, we know are just fables. What is there that connects them all together at the root? The root of the tree. What do all of the gods have in common? And what do they have in common with me? So with that, we will say Arati. Jaya Jaya Arati Vina Vinayaka Vina Vinayaka Shri Ganesha Jaya Jayartiya Subramanya Subramanya Kartikeya Jaya Jayartiya Venugopala Venugopala Venuola Papa Vidura Navanita Chora Jaya Jayarti Venkantaramana Venkantaramana Sankataharana Sitarama Radhe Shama Jaya Jayarti Gauri Manohara Gauri Manohara Bhavani Sankara Samba Sadashiva Maheshwara Jaya Jayarti Raja Rajeshwari Raja Rajeshwari Tripura Sundari Mahalakshmi Mahasaraswati Mahakali Mahashakti Jaya Jayarti Anjaneya Anjaneya Hanumanta Jaya Jayarti Dattatreya Dattatreya Trimutraya Vatara Jaya Jayarti Adityaya Adityaya Bhaskaraya Jaya Jayarti Sanistaraya Sanistaraya Bhaskaraya Jaya Jayarti Sankarachaya Sankarachaya Advaita Guravi Jaya Jayarti Sadgurunata Sadgurunata Shivananda Jaya Jayarti Vishnu Devananda Vishnu Devananda Vishnu Devananda Jaya Jayarti Agastya Munaye Agastya Munaye Shri Rama Priyaye Jaya Jayarti Ayapa Samini Ayapa Samine Dharma Shastave Jaya Jayarti Jesus Gurave Moses Gurave Buddha Gurave Jaya Jayarti Muhammad Gurave Guru Nanak Gurave Samastya Gurubho Namaha Jaya Jayarti Venugopala Natatra Suyobati Natandra Karatam Nema Vidyobati Kotoya Magni Tameva Bantamanandi Sarvam Tasya Basya Samidam Vivanti Om Gange Kayamune Kaiva Govari Saraswati Narmade Siddhi Kaveri Namast Excuse me Namastitam Namo Namaha Hate stems from jealousy. I believe that Yoda said that. George Lucas said it, maybe. Who knows? It's interesting to me, those people who get pleasure from fighting. It's an interesting piece of human psychology that I don't really understand. But, you know, it's okay. It's really okay. Lava Duck, I have plenty of mods. I suppose none of them are here right now. Adding people to the moderator team is a little bit of a process. I'm always happy to add new moderators. The way to do that is message me that you're interested. You should join my Discord server. Join my Discord server and message me that you're interested in moderating for me. And then, if you are, I will follow you on TikTok, and then the next live stream you can be a moderator. It's quite a process, but also, like, it's not strictly necessary. You know, yes, there are moderators here. Like, the thing is that to deal with difficult people in the chat, the task at hand, like, moderators like have tools to mute or ban, but actually the way to make the chat better isn't to mute or ban them, but to just drown them out, right? To fill the feed with other kinds of conversation, right? Because their goal is to demand attention from me and from all of you, and you can deny them that goal by simply placing your attention elsewhere, right? By filling the chat with other forms of attention. That's incredibly effective, and you don't need mod privileges for that. Yes, I appreciate your restraint, Dudette. I appreciate it a lot. Yes, and sending hearts, like, that is the perfect response. So thank you. Yeah, it used to be like a year ago, when my TikTok channel was doing much better, there would be many more trolls. Like, the live stream would just be trolls the entire time. And, like, if I'm being honest, I miss those days because I miss the attention. I miss the numbers going up. right? I don't have numbers good enough to actually do this professionally currently, which is unfortunate. And I keep trying, but I shouldn't dwell on that. In any case, thank you so much for making this little space that we have together, a really lovely place to be. I'm really grateful for all of you that are here with me. Om natatrasyo bhati natandrakaratam nemavidyo bhati kutoya magni tvameva bantamanamanti sarvam tasya basya saridam vivanti Om kange kayamune kaiva govari saraswati narmade sudikaveri hiyaha Namastitam namo namaha Tvameva mata chapita tvameva Tvameva bandusha saka tvameva Tvameva vidya travinam tvameva Tvameva sarvam mama deva deva Kayena vacha manasendriyarva Buddhyatmana va prakrite sabhavad Karomi adyad mangalam parasmahi Narayana iti sarmar payami Sarvadharmam pravichayam become savanambraja Aham sva sarva papayo mokshayami ma sucha. Yes, I will make more dumpster diving videos shortly. I'm going to have students arriving here in a couple of weeks, and then I will be dumpstering with them regularly. And I will be posting dumpster videos. Although, it kind of makes me sad that the thing that people look for on this channel is almost exclusively dumpster videos. I would like to be telling other stories that are equally as compelling. I have not been able to do so. But yes, this is my job, although it doesn't pay very well at all. I do have a Patreon if you want to help it actually be my full-time job. Right now it's a part-time job. But I do enjoy it, or at least I enjoy parts of it. Parts of it are emotionally distressing in a way that I could not have predicted a year ago when I started doing this work. But I do like it enough to continue doing it. I do enjoy sharing my time with you all. So, yeah. Tvameva mata chapita tvameva Tvameva bandusha saka tvameva Tvameva vidya travinam tvameva Tvameva sarvam mama deva deva Kayena vacha manasendriyarva Buddhyatmana va prakrite sabhavad Karomi adyad mangalam parasmahi Narayana iti sarmar payami Sarvadharmam pravichayam amikam savanambraja Aham sva sarva papayo mokshayami ma sucha. Whatever actions I perform with my body, speech, mind, senses, my nature, my intellect, or my emotions, all these I dedicate to you. To all of you. Thank you so much for joining me today. And now we will say Kaddish, a mourner's prayer. The word Kaddish means holy in Hebrew. We can trace back its roots to ancient Canaan, right? Here, this goddess here, her name is Ketesh. She rides lions, she arouses gods, right? She's like Tiamat a little bit. Or maybe Lady Huber. So Kaddish is a very old root word. It's still with us, it's in my name. And it is most commonly today associated with grief, with mourning. Yeah, those dumpster videos, they are iconic, I know. I will continue to make them because people like them, but it does feel challenging to be pigeonholed sometimes. And also, specifically, I've been making dumpster videos, but the last 3 or 4 that I've made haven't done very well, so I've been less incentivized to make them. Yes, the sound of that bird is out my window. Yeah, dumpster diving is iconic. That is why I do it. But, frankly, I would much rather be understood for these prayers that I do, right? Like, I do these every day. I do these every day because they mean something to me. I don't dumpster dive every day. Maybe I dumpster weekly or monthly. I've been flying drones for 5 years, 6 years, something like that. It's very expensive to have a drone program. I've crashed so many drones, so I don't incorporate drone footage into my videos very often because it's expensive, right? Can't afford it. But I do like it. I do think that they tell really remarkable stories. Where's my light? Am I okay? I'm okay. I'm doing okay. Anyway, we can say Kaddish. Kaddish is a prayer of grief, prayer of public grief. And so we can say these words to let go of things that we have lost, right? To grieve together, to mourn together about all of the bad in the world. All of the unjust laws passed, and all of those who have died, and all of those who have suffered. And we don't have many rituals of public grieving today. And so I think this one is important to do, to remind ourselves that when we suffer, we do not suffer alone. So the words of the Mourner's Kaddish are 2,500 years old, and they sound like this. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, b'yama divrachyote v'yamlich malchute, b'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayedu kol beit Yisrael, b'agala v'izman kari v'yimr. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah meva'arach li'olam olmei olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yirman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei l'kudesha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, d'yomivan b'yama v'yimr. Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yachol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom v'yimr mal v'huya aseh shalom aleinu v'yachol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mamav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, v'yalechol Yisrael, v'yimru, v'yimru. Amen. Thank you for being here today and saying these words with me. It means a lot. So now I'm gonna go get some buckwheat, and we can have some breakfast together and we can chat. You know, Wake Up, I did consider at one point in my life seeking some sort of counseling training. And like certainly, basically all of the work that I do would constitute some kind of emotional labor, right? Like that's what it is to live at a commune. You have to be emotionally in tune with the people around you, blah, 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 right? People tell me on TikTok that I am soothing. So I suppose that is part of who I am, whether I like it or not. But therapeutic frameworks, psychotherapy, that entire paradigm, I don't know, I've engaged with it, right? I've been in therapy for years, on and off. But it's not, I don't know, I have my doubts. Buckwheat for breakfast. So I'm gonna go get some buckwheat, and then I will be back in a minute, and we can chat further. You're having coffee for breakfast. I should think you might want something a little bit more nutritionally fulfilling. But sometimes I skip breakfast. I seem sad today. That's interesting to hear, Susie, because I don't feel especially sad. Like, I do think that, like, on base, like on average, am I sad? Yes, like I think I'm probably clinically depressed. But the last few days, I've been in a better mood than I was in the weeks before that. I think I am getting healthier. So I should hope I don't seem terribly sad right now, because I don't feel it. Certainly I've live streamed feeling much sadder. But there is a component of this stream that I find frustrating, right? Like, numerically, a year ago, there were 10 times the number of people in this room, right? I would be streaming to 4,000 people regularly. And now that's just not the case, right? So that is like a long-term bummer. Best recipes if you feel down. I don't necessarily cook to soothe myself. But I eat out of a rice cooker in my room for a reason. It's very simple. I can pour the grains in and pour water in, and then I don't have to think about it. And then there's warm grain for me to eat. And I appreciate it. Yep, mental illness is tricky. I do think that in the future, in like 1,000 years, when we have a much better understanding of neural anatomy, a lot of mental illness will be curable. But of course that's not actually the right frame to think about it in. Because it's not like a disease with a pathogen where there's some other that you need to eliminate. Good morning, Rain. How are you doing today? I'm doing alright, Chiqua Luna. I'm doing alright. Could be worse. Yeah, I've considered taking antidepressants. I got a prescription over the winter when I was doing really poorly. But I didn't want to commit to a psychotropic drug in my body for the rest of my life, basically. Because I knew that if I started them, I wouldn't be able to go off. And that was frightening, so I didn't start. How did I learn about these trance songs and languages? Exposure. All of the prayers that I presented to you today, were things that my mother brought me to. She brought me to various religious institutions, when I was young, and they imprinted me. Hello, Tido. Any inspirational thoughts? I don't think I get to decide if my thoughts are inspirational. I think that's for you to decide. Yeah, my mother was definitely a polytheist. No doubt about it. And I appreciate that about her. Do I believe in God? That's an interesting question. Unfortunately, I can only answer semantically, Eleanor. Right, like, it's a question that could only be asked in English, right? Because the word God, like, in English, the word God means two things simultaneously, especially with a capital D, right? The word God means Yahweh, basically, or there's a historical reference to the God of the ancient Israelite people, the monotheistic God, right? And then there's also a more general meaning, right? God, lowercase g, meaning some sort of divinity that someone might worship somewhere, right? Or like, not even worship, like, it's just an incredibly vague word. So I can't tell you whether or not I believe in it, because I don't really know what you mean when you say it. Because you could mean any number of things. And there are some kinds of gods that I believe in, and some kinds that I don't. And also, frankly, the concept of believing, like, what does it mean to believe in something, is also a little circumspect. So what I can say is that God is a meme, right? There are different versions of God, different stories about what God is that humans tell. And some of those memes, some of those stories resonate with me more than others. Right? Do I believe that the infinite exists? Well, yes. But that's not a question of belief. That's just a consequence of living my life with the number line ingrained into my psychology. Well, the numbers can keep going. Well, yes. Then infinity must be real. It's not imaginary. But of course, it is imaginary. Does the universe have an edge? No. Maybe it does. Whatever. There are a lot of ways to think about God, right? We were just reading a story about Marduk, the God King, who's going to slay Tiamat with his holy bow and his axe. And what do I believe about Marduk, right? Do I believe that Marduk existed as a physical being that slayed a giant dragon goddess? No, absolutely not. Do I believe that there were people in the ancient world telling stories about Marduk? Absolutely. Do I think that those stories have an impact on their society and their psychology and the way that they experience the world? Absolutely. Right? Were they referring to something like that they experienced? Absolutely. Have I ever experienced a god king with a holy weapon killing a dragon mother? I have not. Right? And yet I have, because I read stories about it. So, do I believe in God? That question is too broad, basically, to answer. But certainly what I can say is that I enjoy reading stories about God. I enjoy talking about God. And I enjoy thinking about God. Whether or not I believe in God, Could I talk about dumpster diving and its role in my life? For a minute or two, Nikki. As I was saying, I'm kind of fatigued by being the dumpster girl. I think that there's a lot more to who I am than simply that I dive into dumpsters and tell good stories about it. But I've been dumpstering for 15 years, 14 years, something like that. And I've been dumpstering for as long as I've been an adult human. It's a way of earning your food, right? Most people today, they earn money and then they exchange their money for food. And when I was younger, I realized that I wanted to have a more direct relationship with my food, right? Like, I wanted the matter that I was putting inside me to come from my own labor. And that's why I live on a farm now. Dumpster diving and farming are very, very similar in ethos and also in the kinds of labor that you do, right? Like, food is dirty. Food is dirty. So dumpster diving was a way for me to have a more immediate and direct access to the source of my food and to the energy sources that were sustaining me. So I started dumpstering, and I started telling stories about it. And I do think that it's an important practice. Not for the reasons that most people think, right? Like, I don't think it's important because it stops food waste. It doesn't stop food waste. Never Never have I convinced any grocery store to throw out less because I'm taking food out of their dumpster, right? It doesn't prevent food waste at all. But it puts me in connection with my food, and it helps me feed my community, and it pays well, right? Like, it's a reasonable dollar per hour, right? It certainly pays better than TikTok. So I continue to dumpster dive when I need to feed people. And I think having the ability to feed large groups of people is a really valuable ability, and one that I've worked quite hard to have. So, that's that. I should probably go now, because I finished my breakfast, and I have to teach a class in 15 minutes. But I hope you have a very lovely day, and I will see you all tomorrow. Say these words once more. Okay? Farewell.